Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and this is my number 8 most mysterious site in Egypt video. And this place just has a lot of questions and few answers that are worth anything. Now this is ancient Abydos here. Quick review. Right down here with a little line in it, this is the Osiris, this is the Temple of Seti. We back out here, we have a bunch of old tombs under the ground here, one of the most ancient portions of Egypt. Right here, we have an ancient temple of Khenti-Amentiu that seems to be in ruins here around the time the dynastic Egyptians started. Right here, we have a very large enclosure with a super thick wall here. But the place we are talking about today is right in front of what they call the mountain of Anubis, and that has been called the mountain of Anubis way back in time. This is called the Devil's Punchbowl. That's what I'm calling it because that's what it was called by early explorers who were here over 100 years ago. But this was called the Devil's Punchbowl because it was just a big pit of sand. It was a big mystery to the people who were first here. But I think this is one of those shafts cut in the ground that filled with sand, and I don't think this place has really been properly excavated. You notice an outer wall here that is not in alignment with the shaft cut down here, so that hints that this was put in by later dynastic Egyptians. And a lot of pharaohs here built temples and smaller things out here, including Senroset, who this place is ascribed to, and that is based on guesses. Let's just go to a couple websites and do some reading and look at some pretty cool pics. This is Popular Archaeology, and I will leave the link below. It says, a pharaoh's massive tomb unveiled. The tomb of King Senroset III, one of the most renowned pharaohs of ancient Egypt's Middle Kingdom, is expected to open soon, allowing tourists to appreciate the architecture of Egyptian builders who constructed the burial complex almost 4,000 years ago. According to Dr. Joseph Wagner, Associate Curator of the Egyptian section of the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology, the architecture is amazing, said Wagner. It's like going into a pyramid. Its architecture is symbolic, depicting the sacred journey into the afterlife. Visualize how massive this is. One would need to imagine a 13-story building underground. But this just gives a look at what they excavated here. Excavated trench and shaft. They really got down below here, and what they found was pretty incredible. This descending shaft here. I will show pics of that in a second. But here is what they found below the ground here. And I'll show a pic of the pole roof chamber. And that is over 8 meters high. That is pretty tall. But that is a very unique roof. But let's just keep on watching here. And there's a double chamber down here with a compartment that has a secret passageway through the roof. I'll show that in a second here, but that is how you get further into this place. You got to go through a secret passage here. And then it starts curving here. You find yourself into an irregular shaped chamber, and then it curves even farther, and finally you get down to the end. Let's take a look at some pics here. And here is the beginning of the journey down into the shaft tomb. And I'm just thinking maybe this was a symbolic tomb of Osiris, just like we have in the Osiris shaft up at Giza, in front of the sacred mountain of Anubis, right behind what would have been Anubis. Then the farther you get down, it becomes well-cut rock chambers and tunnels here. Here we can see what is accumulated over time. Some pretty large rubble there. Perfectly cut entrance. Here we can see the rubble. Looks like little niches cut on the side of these perfectly cut blocks here on the walls. Does this look like an Egyptian tomb? Well, there's not one thing Egyptian on the walls, and that's totally against the Egyptian tombs I have seen. And here is one of the passageways. I think this is the secret entranceway where you have to go up through the ceiling and then continue. Large blocks in here. Now this pic will give you an idea of how tall this is in places. Here you see the ceiling up here. And down here they are working on their excavations. So this is really unique. It seems there are things here that are unexplained. Now here is what I think they say are the 50-ton granite blocking stones. But this is strange. This appears maybe like this was a perfectly made tomb made out of granite, and then this was just destroyed over time. I have a lot of questions about that pic there. Now here's someone who got down below here, I think about 10 years ago. Massive granite sarcophagus, and how big is this total? If this is just the lid, based on that perspective of how tall she would be, that thing is huge. And I don't see any marking on it whatsoever. The Egyptians marked their sarcophagus all over the place, had the death story, the life story, the afterlife story inscribed all over it. But a lot of the royal tombs at Abydos have this seal in it somewhere. This is the mountain of Anubis. And then this is a little more detailed. This is a sky glyph over the gate. The gates of heaven here. Anubis sits upon the gates of heaven. Anubis upon the gates of heaven here. Going back to the very earliest periods of recorded Egyptian history, this is what the people who mummified the dead king would wear, an Anubis mask. But it goes on to say, was King Senroset III's body actually buried in the Abydos tomb? Senroset had 2 burial places prepared for himself, a pyramid at Dashur, where he also erected pyramids for his mother, his chief wife, and other royal women, and the tomb at Abydos much further south. But which one was the actual burial place of the king? Well, I think a lot of these pharaohs going back to the 12th dynasty and farther back, those tombs were looted a long, long time ago. But it says, while Senroset III's mummy was never found, historians are almost certain that he was not buried in the pyramid in Dashur. I don't think we've had a mummy in a pyramid found. We've had a couple in mastabas, but I don't know if we've ever had one in a pyramid. But it says, because archaeologists did not find any pottery or debris or evidence that a sarcophagus was ever placed there, said Oppenheim, who is also the curator of the excavation of the Dashur pyramid of Senroset III. But it says, in Abydos, on the other hand, archaeologists did find fragments of stone vessels that typically would have been laid in a royal tomb, indicating that the pharaoh was buried there. But no mummy. According to Wagner, it may have been destroyed when ancient robbers were searching for other valuables. So his name was on a temple that was built outside, and a lot of pharaohs were in Abydos. And we have some of them buried there that go all the way back to the pre-dynastic period. This is name on some stone vessels that very well could have been laid at this place for offerings. That's really all they have to go on. Nothing solid, just like other places. But some of the earliest pharaohs in Egyptian history are buried at Abydos. Here is one tomb that is contemporary to Senroset, within I think a few hundred years. But here they have the winged disc over here, Horus symbolized, artwork, other things inscribed here, and that is the way an Egyptian tomb should look. But in that Senroset, there is nothing. But here is Senroset III, a statue of him. We have a few of them, and he was a pretty powerful ruler of the 12th dynasty, and that is a period we really don't have a lot known. I mean, they're only guessing that he was Senroset's the second son. He was Senroset III, but they're not really sure, so that's how much we really know. But here you see the nose hacked off, and that is pretty much the way they did it in ancient Egypt. They would hack off the nose, and of course the Sphinx nose is missing, and that's where the breath of the god came from. They destroyed that. They kind of killed the god in a symbolic way. Now here is a pic of the entrance today. They built a covering over it, and it's just a descending shaft here. And was this just a pit like Zayat El Aryan? Well, here you see like an upper level that kind of indicates that this was just a shaft cut in the ground. But I have a lot of questions. Do they let people in here today? Do you have to pay $2,000 or whatever, just like the Osiris shaft at Giza? And I think that's what this place is. It's a symbolic tomb of Osiris. underneath or in front of the mountain of Anubis. Do we have that same symbolism at Giza? Well, I think we do. Now here on this website gives a look at the mountain of Anubis here, and then what is below here. There are actually two entrances here, and this is the whole diagram of what is below here, but this goes for a long, long way. Now here is that pole ceiling roof chamber room, and it says here, Joseph Wagner is one of the growing number of scholars who believe the Abydos tomb of Senroseth III is meant to be a physical representation of the Umduat, which explains its shape. It's fascinating to think the Umduat existed as far back as the Middle Kingdom. Well, I think it went a lot farther back than that. But there's no record of it because the perishable scrolls on which it had been written disintegrated to dust long ago, so they think that is what they put in the tomb here, and that's why there's no record of whose this was or what it was all about. And I find that kind of silly. At the center of the tomb's chamber is the burial chamber representing the realm of Osiris and equating to the 6th hour of the Umduat. And I think the 5th hour is represented in the pyramids of Giza. I just thought I'd throw that in there, but this is all very interesting right here, what they have to say about this being the realm of Osiris, basically. And here's another look inside with these massive blocks that had to get pushed out of the way, I guess, in certain areas. But very unique place. But that is what is known as the Devil's Punchbowl. There are other things in this area that are very ancient, including the Osirian. I'm sure that'll be on the list somewhere. But is this just like the Osiris shaft in front of the mountain right behind the old Anubis statue at Giza? Well, this symbolism is exactly the same at Abydos as it is up at Giza, except at Giza we have the Giza pyramids. Down here at Abydos we have the mountain of Anubis. But that is the Devil's Punchbowl. I think there are tons of questions. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.